I'm live. The wake of God or the ripple of God. This morning, we're going to kind of balance out the week. I've got a great message prepared for you, and I can't wait to share it with you. The wake of God, or is it just the ripple of God? Oh man, this has been high drama this morning. High drama. I guess I got to give my first shout out. Thank you to Chad Cook. He's amazing. Mobile social media 365. I'm always talking about him a little bit, but this morning I had to call him because my soundboard isn't working. Literally nothing has worked because I don't know if it's the wake of God or is this going to be a ripple effect of God. I know the answer to that, and I hope you guys already know the answer to that. I got a little bit of a sound challenge this morning, and I'm hoping Chad gives me thumbs up and everybody can hear me well. We had to MacGyver this entire sound situation for some reason. You know, I've been gone for many months. Hi, Greg. Greg, you hear me good? Does it sound like the mic's plugged in and everything's working well? Because literally, I was almost going to reschedule this message with all of you because I just didn't have any sound. So hopefully someone can give me the high sign on that. But the morning message is the wake of God. And what I wanted to talk to everybody about was this idea of thank you, Greg, this idea of all the things that we kind of do for God or we do that God asks us to do. And the other thing, I want to welcome all of you Tom's Donuts people, because Thursday is going to be kind of my Tom's Donuts day. And I'm not going to get all Jesus crazy on the Tom's Donuts channel. I just want to kind of wrap up this summer that we had at Lake James at the donut capital of the world and just talk about the message I gave a little bit on Sunday where we had a revival. I'll give you the updates on all that. And then we're going to kind of get through the rest of this week. We've got lots to do here in Florida. We've got several building projects going on, and then I'm going to fly back to Indiana, and then we're going to be back on our normal Wired Differently experience schedule. So this morning, you know, I've got a great message. I wanted to follow up because a lot's been kind of heavy on me because literally leading up to the revival, I'm going to give you the results of the revival real quick here, but leading up to the revival, there was some angst. You know, a lot of things were happening at the restaurant. A lot of things were happening at the donut shop and the donut capital of the world. A lot of things were happening. And it's not to be unexpected, but this was an abnormal amount of chaos. It was just a situation that was really somewhat frustrating. And then as the event happened, it went off famously. I mean, famously meaning it was just very well, and it did very well. My soul was good, right? So what little people know about this revival is that I did a show on Friday. I feel like I'm risking it all. Was this compromise that I had been making, I think, with God, was I had this whole Wired Differently brand on a channel. So go join Wired Differently, Todd Saylor, some 30,000 followers over there. And on that channel, I do a show that's live every day, Monday through Thursday. Friday, you get off. You go to school. You only have to go 4 days with me. And in that Monday through Thursday, I teach on business principles, mostly Christian business principles, mostly Christian principles in general, Bible-based Christian morning teaching live 9:00 every morning, Monday through Thursday. I don't know, Chad could probably weigh in here. Um, maybe, we've got close to 200 produced podcasts, but we didn't start really producing them or counting them, maybe 100 into it. So I think we'll do a count. Maybe we're pushing 300 podcasts. The emphasis now, though, is Christian. So here's the thing. So I'm doing this event. We're moving along, and the event happens this last Sunday. Chad and I and the people that we put this together with the Fremont Zion Missionary Church, Pastor John Bruni, amazing man, amazing congregation, amazing worship band. We put this thing together. He encouraged me. He supported me. He didn't charge us any money whatsoever. Took his whole entire church, and they had their church over at our function. Amazing, amazing people. If you don't have a church and you're in that Steuben County area, would clearly say go visit Zion Missionary Church in Fremont, 10 o'clock service. Pastor John Bruni, amazing. So anyways, they come over, we do all this, and all of the ramp up to this is gut-wrenching. I'm putting together the message of misfit. I'm putting together the message of don't give up, all based on Galatians 6:9, which is do not grow weary in doing good, for you will reap a harvest if you do not give up. That was the premise of the entire message for the people of the Lake Life Revival. This Lake Life Revival was built around this idea, and I'm going to come back to what I started with, is me segregating Todd Saylor Wired Differently with Todd Saylor Tom's Donuts. The donut capital of the world had its own channel, and Wired Differently had its own channel. And I'd always, for the last 100 years, I suppose, had separated business, Tom's Donuts, donut capital of the world. So I'm very grateful from Todd Saylor Wired Differently. And I feel like God had talked to me and he called. I don't hear voices. I just feel like I was called to stop traveling nationally, pursuing to travel nationally. What happens, but to stop the emphasis of marketing and pushing with Salem Media and doing all the political things and the Christian political things and the national scope of all that, and bring my focus into Steuben County. More precisely, I felt called to share it with the donut capital world. I mean, am I living a lie if I'm saying, okay, this is where I really want to be, Wired Differently, and Tom's is really where I want to be, but God is not really part of the emphasis on Tom's, but he is all of my emphasis on Wired Differently. And I just feel like God said, we're bringing you recognition in the community. You shouldn't be afraid to share your faith with your business connections. And so that's really the impetus of where the revival came. Like, come out big, come out smart, come out in love, come out in goodness, right? Do not grow weary in doing good, Todd. Don't be afraid. Good means the Spirit. Good means sharing the gospel. Good means all those things that come along with being a Christian. Do not grow weary in doing those things, Todd, for you will reap a harvest if you do not give up. And so, you got this whole effort of bringing the Wired message, not in a big, I'm not going to do it on Tom's very often all the time, but I do think that people need to know that I have this faith behind me. I have this belief structure behind me. So that's where we are. So we combined the two, and that's how we ended up in the revival, is really where I felt called to do it. And so here, let me just give you the results of the revival, because I want a lot of you to understand that goodness does come from followers. But I will tell you this, man, there is a wake behind God's decisions. There's a wake behind what you do and what you follow and what you say, and this world that we live in, right? Because we are misfits. We've accepted Christ, and now we're misfits. We're not really part of this world. We're wired differently. And so we're called to the 10 commandments. Do not murder, do not commit adultery, do not, covet, do not steal. Good things come along with being a rule follower, I suppose, in the Christian faith. but there's a wake of God. So let's hear what happened. So we had a big build up. We had some marketing. We had some things happening. We really prayed about this. We really worked hard, and we thought maybe 150 people would be a nice number. And man, if we could get maybe 2 or 3 baptisms, man, that'd be a great number, right? And all along, Pastor John Bruni's saying, "Yeah, you you better turn it up. God's going to show up and all these things." And I'm like, yeah, you're a pastor. You see this a lot. I'm out here teaching and preaching in a worldly place where I'm having to deal with people all around, all different sizes and shapes and makeups and all these kind of things. And I'm like, man, I want to believe like you, Pastor. I want to believe like you, Pastor. I'm trying to believe like you, Pastor. So we go forward and we go past the hurdles of employee troubles. We go past the hurdles of financial troubles. We go past the hurdles of, like, literally, we couldn't even find motorcycle drivers that were going to pull Pastor Bruni apart. We didn't have a stage, and then we couldn't get the Jumbotron up, and then the sound didn't work, and the night before, and like it just kept mounting and mounting and mounting and mounting, and like, this is crazy, this is ridiculous. And what's happening though is that God is creating a wake. God is creating, like, if you follow me, there will be a wake. And that's why I titled this The Wake of God. But here's what happens the day of the event. We didn't get 150 people. We didn't. We got 400. The official count, I think, came in at 387, but I'm rounding up because it was too hard to count, right? It was too hard to count. Those were the people that sat there from 10 o'clock till 11:30. I would give you a number of upwards to 500, maybe even more, because the message of the whole mindset, mission, and movement of Wire Differently on this revival, on the corner of this climactic infusion of Wire Differently with the donut capital of the world, was this, that the lines were never, ever longer at the donut capital of the world with people waiting in donuts for donuts than they were at 10 o'clock. I find that interesting. The boat traffic coming in and out on that corner where we were having the revival, the stage and the music and all this noise, this performance, the message. We never had more boat traffic in our life. Docking, pulling in, docking, pulling out, walking behind the stage and looking and pointing. You know, the walkers, passerbyers never stood on the bridge above this whole thing and looked upon us more than I've never seen that in my life. I mean, we're not counting walkers across the bridge and people watching momentarily from the bridge. We're not counting the people coming in on their boats and parking momentarily and coming in and getting donuts and getting out and having their kids walk by. And they weren't afraid. They just came in, they came out, they looked, they peered. Who knows? They might have said a prayer to themselves. They might have had a seed planted. Who knows what happens? And the line over at the donut shop, because if you know what I'm talking about, there's 3 corners of the 4 that we own. The one corner that we own is on the water where the boats are coming in. The one directly across is Traditions, the restaurant that we own, which was packed after the event. We didn't plan for that. And then the donut shop, the donut capital of the world, is catty corner to all this. And all these people decided for some reason to buy donuts, which a lot of them buy donuts. I'm not saying it's a miracle that they buy donuts. I'm just saying that the lines traditionally die off around 10 or 11. Maybe 9:30 even on some Sundays later in the year. But man, the lines picked up. And that was the mindset, the mission, the movement of this ministry was really I wanted to preach and speak to the people that were in front of me. Don't get me wrong. But what I really feel called to do with the Lake Life Revival was to prepare something that the passerbyers would notice. That the gawkers would say, hey, what's going on over there? Let's park our boat here. let's stand on the bridge and not be involved, but we can be involved. And isn't that how God works? And so when I prepared this message today, I didn't plan on all this rigmarole problems for the last hour. Thank you, Chad, for picking up and trying to help me fix this. But I just think it's more of the chaos in the wake of God. I said something earlier that maybe God created the wake, and I think God creates the opportunity for a wake. In a wake, I want you to understand, as I talked to you this morning, I don't know if I'll get to all these points. I'm going to keep it short and easy, I suppose. But I want you to think about the wake. I want you to think about that boat that's on the lake, and it's coming across the lake, and it's doing this, and it picks up the speed, and all of a sudden behind the boat, there's this wake, and it's waves on each side of the boat, and behind the boat's going across the most smooth, pristine water there is, the calmness of the lake, but behind it, it's leaving turbulence. It's leaving a wake. Now, wake can be good or bad, but most generally, it's probably thought of a wake of maybe turbulence and disruption behind the boat. And I think that's really more apropos for what I'm talking about today, because I want you to see this wake. And I want you to understand that God's driving this boat through this pristine water, and he's saying, man, it's calm out here. We need to shake it up a little bit. We need to make some noise. And so he creates this wake behind the boat. God's driving his boat through the ocean or the bay or Lake James or Jimerson Lake. Probably Jimerson because it's normally smooth. Lake James, it's kind of cray out there. But I've seen it smooth. Don't get me wrong. I've been there 150 some years, right? But as that boat plows through the smooth water and leaves the wake behind, it's disrupting a little bit. It's creating some cocktail of some sort of moving water around and thoughts and people and minds and things in the water. And so that's why I titled this The Wake, because God brought the revival to us. God created the disruptions on the corner, the gawkers, the lookers, the passerbyers, the boat parkers, the channel driving by. That channel, I think either God planted all these boats to just happenly come by 2 and 3 times, the same drivers. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in charge of that. But what I'm telling you is that the passerby space was far greater than the 400 approximate standers and listeners to my message. 400. I'm going with 400. 400 plus. I can't count them. I don't know if that matters. It just means that God showed up and people were messaged to. And I'm going to give you one other stat. We thought maybe maybe a couple people would step forward and be baptized. Okay, John never thought that. He thought there would be plenty. I was like, I've never done this. I've never even been to a revival, man. I mean, I opened up my message with a video of the Elvis movie where Elvis, as a young boy, was screaming through a bad part of town, and he saw some sexual behavior in one barn, and then he heard the revival in another barn, and he had to choose which barn he was going to listen to the music in, the sexy, dancing, bluesy barn, or did he run across this apparently desert to a tent out in a revival? And man, little Elvis looked at it. He looked and heard the music at the revival, and he decided to book it out of that place of sin across this way on some boards to go to a revival and listen to that music. And then that's where he became saved. Great movie, great scene. That's my bandwidth of a revival. I told that story, but here we are. We ended up baptizing 17, not 2, 17. And I thought maybe just to kind of make this a little more apparent for everybody out there that wasn't around it, that I would just kind of show you this. See here. We got at the stage. I'm trying to add the video. Okay, can you see that? I'm going to play this video, and I think um, you're going to be surprised. I really, really do. Here is the video of the revival, and a highlight of the crowd. And I want you to enjoy this, and then I'm going to teach to you just a little bit. So I want to apologize to some of you in the beginning. You really probably couldn't get a visual of what was going on there. Now you can. You can see the bridge. You can see the waters. You can see the way this was set up. No, I just almost want to ask forgiveness from God for not thinking he would perform in such a massive, massive way. But when it came to baptisms, 17 baptisms, I think that was my point of, just height of awness of God, height of something you've planned on for so long and you've worked so hard and you set the stage and all the problems with the stage, all the problems with the jumbotron, all the problems with the sound, all the problems with the workers, all the problems with my businesses, all this stuff that is the wake of God, right? The wake of God. This boat is coming across the water, and the wake comes out, and it's disrupting, it's discouraging, and some of the things that are happening. And it's not God putting these things in our path, but I believe it's evil powers that want just not to have the good things happen. Matter of fact, I can tell you for a fact that when I got out there at 9 o'clock, when we had people coming and just warming up with contemporary music by the amazing Jensen Snyder, she's a friend, a performer, a God follower, beautifully gifted spiritual voice. She started singing, and as she started to sing, there was 3 or 4 men on the bridge, and they started to say things like, Jesus freaks, we came to see the freak show. This is the wake of God. I mean, it's the wake that follows our embodiment or our empowerment to listen to what God has. So that's all the success. But even after the success, the very next day, my life was bombarded with more difficult things. I'm not going to go into those, but I'm just going to tell you, I started to feel a dip of depression. I started to feel the weight of God. I started to feel the weight of things going wrong, and this idea or this weight of being a godly man and being measured now differently. And I started to think about you. I started to think about you and your lives. This isn't about me. This is about what I've experienced in the wake of God. But I want you to understand that when you step out in faith for God, when you listen to Galatians 6:9, and I say, do not grow weary in doing good, for you will reap a harvest. Like if you just don't give up, right? I want you to understand that this do not grow weary in doing good is not, Paul didn't just say that because he was like, life's going to be peachy all the time. I mean, Paul knew that the followers in Galatian were being persecuted. Paul knew that their lives were being disrupted because they listened to God. And he knew that he had to encourage them. He knew that he had to turn it up. He knew he had to say, I love you. We still love you. And guess what? This is happening to me because I'm going to be in jail and I'm going to be writing letters from jail. And we're supposed to somehow find that this is a good thing when it's not. It doesn't feel good to have things go bad because you follow God or you listen to God. It doesn't, I'm not going to start lying to you now. It doesn't feel good. And then you do these gut checks and you do these things of like, did I do the right thing? Is it worth it all? Is anything going to really come of all this? Is there an ROI on it? I mean, we all do the old ROI thing. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? ROI doesn't come just in money. It comes in feelings. It comes in relationships. So I guess I'm here to tell you, man, yeah, it's worth it. Because here is the answer for you today, the wake of God, the wake that comes after you've listened to God and you've done great things or good things or you've been obedient to God. I think the naysayers, I think the disruptors, I think that the evil out there is on the lookout for you. So I'm with you. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, you're probably going to experience. But here's the thing. The question today is it really the wake of God or is it the ripple of God? Because when you talk about leaving a wake, a lot of us like, oh man, that dude left a wake behind him, tearing up stuff. Oh man, that guy was a mess. You feel like the wake is bad. But when you hear this idea of a ripple, right? A ripple is a little different, right? A ripple's different. Wake is a really big wave and wake and create disruption and could be bad, could be good. And most of the time thought of bad. And that's what I'm feeling right now. And you're possibly feeling in your life when you're doing good, but do not grow weary in doing good. Do not grow weary in passing that spirit, because I want you to know that doing good will leave you with a harvest if you do not give up. And here's the metaphor I want to give you. Every wake ultimately leaves in a ripple. The wave dies down. And it becomes a ripple. And ripples are good. The ripple effect of God, right? The ripple effect of your seed that you plant, the ripple effect of your message, the ripple effect of your business, the ripple effect of your family, the ripple effect of your children, right? The ripple is what we're talking about from the baptism that came from the wake. Right now, come on, someone now, amen to that, hallelujah, all that kind of stuff you want to say, because the message just makes good, great sense. Rejoice in the ripple. Here's the 3 things I'm going to close with you guys, because we're going to get on out of here. 1, the 3 pieces that come from a wake that become a ripple. 1, the joy of obedience. I want you to understand in Ephesians 2:10, for we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good work, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Ephesians 2:10 tells us the ripple effect is for us. The joy of obedience. Abide. Even though there's some pain, there's just some general good feeling when you just listen to your parents. Even though they give you some dumb advice sometimes, it just feels good to be obedient. The joy of obedience. The wake becomes a ripple. The joy of obedience. Number 2, the spiritual battle. The spiritual battle, Ephesians 6:12 says this, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places, right? The wake is that wickedness, but it becomes a ripple, and then we win. The ripple is ours to claim. Look for the spiritual battles, because if you're in one, you're winning. You're doing something right. And number 3, God's presence in trial. Matthew 11:28 says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. So I know it's a Thursday morning. I know we got a lot going on. Watch the replay, watch the live. Got a lot to live people. But I want you to know that God comes to us. We ask him to come to us, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. And so that's what I'm talking to you today in point 3. I am weary. I am burdened. I am caught in the wake, waiting for the beautiful ripple that's starting today. I appreciate you listening to me today. Monday, we'll be back on just the Wire Differently channel. On Thursdays, I'll generally do possibly a Tom's invitation, and we'll do some things that are more in tune to the Toms and that world, and we can do updates and have some fun in that regard. But I appreciate all you Toms people. I appreciate all you Wired people. I appreciate the convergence of our messaging. Galatians 6:9. Do not grow weary in doing good, for we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. So, my friends, I just want you to understand, I do love you, and I don't want you to give up. get to wiredifferently.com, wiredifferently.com. We got this shirt like you see behind me here. We've got plenty of shirts. We got some over 70 shirts, t-shirts, long sleeve t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, and they got all kinds of really cool sayings on them. None of them are all crazy Christian, but they're good verses, they're good messages, they're good things. Why not wear God on your sleeve, on your back, on your shoulder? Why just Adidas? Why just Nike? Why? Come on now, somebody, show your faith. And if you go to wiredifferently.com, you can buy the shirt. We'll ship it to you. And if you hit promo code WIRED15, we'll give you an additional 15% off. They're already ridiculously low price. My point is, I want to get these shirts in your hands. I want you to be celebrating God and his message. Remember, today, there is a wake of God. There's a wake of God. If you follow God, there'll be some things, some trials and tribulations, but it'll turn into a ripple. And the ripple effect will be you and God's message being cast all over this world.